Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about getting into our router's user interface and changing some of the factory configuration settings to give us a little bit of a more secure home or small office network. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click on this magnifying glass and type in CMD. And this is going to open up a command prompt because we're only running one real quick, easy command. If you are using a Mac computer, what you're going to be opening is called Terminal, and I'll give you the actual command in the description below. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of. So if you're using a Windows, you're going to open a command prompt and you're going to type in ipconfig, all one word, and a lot of information is going to pop up, and it might seem confusing and a little bit of overwhelming, but really we're only looking for one bit of information, and that's this default gateway right here. And really within the default gateway you're going to see two numbers, and we're only looking for this bottom number right here that says 192.168.0.1. And all that is that's the number that your computer uses to communicate with your router to get out to the internet. So just remember that number. It's probably going to be something very similar to mine. It might be a 2, might be, could be anything, but pretty sure it's going to say 192.168.0.1. So after we find that, all we're going to do is we're going to go into here and we're going to type in 192.168.0.1. There we go. So this is our factory set D-Link router. And one of the reasons that we're doing this, like I said, is for better security. So for instance, when you first get your router and you're logging into it, it's going to have a factory set password or maybe no password at all. So I know in the case of my D-Link that there is no preset password. To be able to find this, all you have to do is really Google the name of your router, if it's Netgear, D-Link, TP-Link, whatever the case may be, and just ask, what is my factory password for this router? And it will automatically pop it up. And like I said, so since I know that there's no password for this, all I have to do is hit enter. And that's what makes it so unsecure, is that somebody could easily get into my router, change the settings, and be getting all of my data without me even knowing, or even just deny me the ability to get into my router without me resetting it. And if you don't know what you're doing, that could cause huge problems. So like I said, since that's the case, the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to Tools here. And as you can see, it says in Administrator Settings, the admin and user accounts can access the management interface. Admin has read-write, user has read-only. By default, there's no password configured. Highly recommended that you create a password. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in here and type in your password. And type it in again. And I'm not going to really worry about the user, because all I'm worried about is the admin for this. And you're just going to save settings. And what it's going to do is it's going to log you out, and you're just going to have to use that password to log right back in to the user interface. And as you see, we're right back in. The next thing we're going to do is go to wireless settings and manual wireless network setup. Now, all this information is what your computer, what your router uses to set itself up and to find and get into your network. So for instance, your wireless network name, that's when you come down here, you see that I'm on D-Link, and this is D-Link right here. So what you can do, you can change this if you want. It's not really a big deal, but I like to change mine. I like to name mine the Death Star because I just do. And then why this isn't a big deal is because the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to actually make this invisible. So by doing this, making it invisible, that means that nobody who doesn't know your network is there, or the name of your network, is going to be able to find and log into your network and take up your bandwidth, slow down your internet connection, or get into your router in general. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put on security mode, and we're going to type in, we're going to use the WPA personal because this is for a home router. And for cipher type, we're just going to use AES. And that's just the way that your encryption is. And then for pre-shared key, we're going to again type in a password. It doesn't have to be the same one. It can be whatever you want. And then we're going to save these settings. So what's going to happen now is it's actually going to kick you out of the user interface, and you're going to have to find and go back into that router. So it's going to take a little while. As you can see, there's a little countdown here. Something to note is that if you're using a different router than what I am, for instance, you're not using a D-Link router, your interface is going to look a little bit different. And so you want, though the steps are going to be very similar, they might be named something different, or your network settings or your wireless settings might be in a different section of your interface. It's not a big deal. It's pretty easy to figure out because it's going to be named something like wireless or wireless settings to be able to get in here. But it's just something to be aware of. That way you're not like, hey, why doesn't mine look the same as his? So just to let you know. And as you can see, once we hit continue, you can see that site cannot be reached. And that's because I'm no longer connected to, I'm no longer connected to my network. So with Windows 10, you can see that there's like a little hidden network thing down here. And that's all you have to click on. And you're going to click connect. And it's going to come up and it's going to say enter the name SSID for your network. Now that's the network name that we just made up. If you remember right, mine is the Death Star. And we're going to click enter, and it says enter your network security key. And so I'm going to do that. And we are getting right back into there. And then all we have to do is remember that number that we typed in, which was 192.168.0.1. And as you can see, we're right back to our user interface. And we're going to use the password that we made up in order to get into that as well. And once it feels like moving, we'll be right back into our interface. So that's just a real quick way to be able to streamline a very secure or a more secure network that just blocks your average person from being able to find, get into your network, slow down your network by having so many devices. I know a lot of people who are like, hey, I look into my router and I can see all these devices. They're not mine, but they're connected to my network. What's going on? And quite honestly, it's probably just one of your neighbors found your network. It's an open network and they're just logging in, using your network, slowing down your bandwidth. That could be possibly one of the reasons why streaming is so slow, why your Netflix is slow, things of that nature. So this is something that you're going to want to do whenever you're setting up your new network. You can do this on your internet service provider's router. It's going to be very similar steps. Like I said, the interface is probably going to look quite different because a lot of times your service provider uploads their own interface to the router, and they have their own configuration settings and everything like that. But you should still be able to take these steps to give yourself a more secure network. All right, thanks for hanging out.